about, this podcast.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the latest episode of Analytics Are for the Nerds. It's been a real long time since I've had to do that open. You see, Allie's not here. We do have former co-host Butthole Surfer with us. But we got a lot to talk about today. I don't know how many days of the Super Bowl like Allie normally does, but, we're ready to roll. So let's go. Wait, hold on. I usually don't have to do this part.
Pick it up, pick it up, pick it up, pick it up. You see the drippy, I'm fitted up. Hop in my car and the giddy up. Secure the bag, yeah, I get the bus. Pick it up, pick it up, pick it up.
What is your day looking like right now? Like
just Philadelphia cream cheese.
So my wife asked me to stop singing Wonderwall all the time, and I said maybe.
What does a nosy pepper do?
What?
It gets jalapeno business.
A film festival, it's just a golf clap, right? They don't actually give you like a real clap. I feel like it's very, high society. They're not going to give you
Yeah, it's like a queef clap. Like
I'm never gonna get that image out of my head.
like that Moana. You are hang out enough. You copy each other's facial hair and the double mustache and that is fucking gross. So welcome.
I do want to be clear, though, that I have earned one, and Lou is depressed. There's a big difference. Lou is still trying to convince 16-year-olds he's cool, and they keep telling him they don't want weed from him. They can get it from anywhere. So, there's a difference between mine and his.
I made
the intro. Look at that.
You made the intro twice. I mean, that's your second for someone who hasn't been on the podcast often. That's your second intro that you've been in here the last month. So you're still hitting the good things. Kyle Turner, thanks for joining us. How are you?
I'm good. I'm happy to be here in place of Allie.
Yeah, you guys look exactly the same too, which is definitely.
I was wondering that whole time. Do you guys have licensing rights to that song?
I'm pretty sure. We'll have to figure out.
Right.
I've used that song since you were on the podcast for years, and then
we didn't have an intro.
You probably
we didn't have an intro. Right. That's why we don't have a podcast anymore.
Well, I've gotten much better I might be stealing, but I have gotten better at my stuff. But yeah, you maybe the thing about when this is first on someone's timeline is you'll see the video shows up of us talking and people could click on stuff. And last week after the intro, Allie legitimately stripped down to a sports bra and she just came out and you had to see the numbers just coming into the podcast. I've never seen so many people join in a 5-minute span and everything. And I will say the numbers aren't adding up the same way as they did that week. So, yeah,
pretty big forehead, huh? Never know when it stops. There it is.
Rye, how are you today? What's going on, buddy?
Oh, not much. I spent 9 hours driving today, so I'm ready to talk football and just spent most of the time thinking about what it would be like actually winning this game. So not to get too football-y, quick.
No, we are changing things a little bit. We are gonna talk a lot of Bills today, centric. Everybody knows we're a Bills fans and live in Buffalo, so we got a couple guys that cover the Bills that will be coming on. We'll talk a little bit of fantasy as well when we can mix that in, but won't be able to, and Kyle's here for the humor, obviously, seeing that he doesn't bring much to the other two conversations. I really wanted to start off with how bad my day, and I was going to tell you, Ryan, how crazy this has been already to not have Allie here. And then, we had to time this, and you and I you were on the road for 9 hours. We're talking on the phone about what we were going to do today. And then I was hoping, then I remembered that Kyle was coming on today, and I don't like how this is going to turn out one-on-one. Like Kyle's definitely, you might be supportive of me. Kyle's going to shit on me. I was hoping that Jeremy White would be in here by 9. He's not yet. So maybe he would have been a good tiebreaker. But here, this is what I went through today, and I need to know. This is the first time in a long time that I've actually been somewhat interested in somebody. I know that this has always been a podcast about my bad dates and my dancing moves and my my going to dinner with somebody and then meeting somebody and then whatever, all my escapades. This I'm actually interested in somebody, and this is what I had to go through today just to be here. Is Kyle froze? Okay, Kyle, I thought you were froze, or if you're just listening really hard intently. Are you listening intently? Okay.
I was.
So, yeah.
I'm still freezing a little bit.
Okay. Okay. I'm not. I can't catch. And your face is scary. Okay, he's gone. Now I can tell the story. This is. I need you to tell me if I went overboard or player mode here. So I'm seeing somebody-ish kind of fine, and we both have kids. We both have a busy life. So today she was like, "Hey, I got an hour. Like I got an hour. If you want to do dinner, we can we could hang out, and you can we could get takeout. Hi, Kyle. We could get takeout." And that's not much time. I go perfect hour because I got the podcast. So we'll spend 7:30, 8:30. I'll be on my way. And, we get to see each other and I get to go do the podcast. So, and then I was like, oh shit. Like, but then we can't do takeout because then you got to like make sure the takeout would be there exactly at 7:30 for me. So it's like, I'll cook. So now I go to get the stuff for it to cook today, to cook and bring over there. And my truck overheats. And scary overheats. So I have to bring it back to the house right away. And I'm not walking to not walking to the grocery store. So now I'm trying to do Instacarts because of the weather. They're all brutal, whatever. I have another work truck at my shop that is not the fact that my truck is overheating in 10 seconds. The other truck is not much of an upgrade. Okay. It's got, and Kyle knows this very well. It's got like one mirror. I don't know if the tires are even, but I walked a good 15 minutes to my shop. No, it's probably a longer walk. Don't you think? 20, whatever, 20 minutes. I'm trying to make it as dramatic as possible. I walked in the freezing cold to get to the shop, to get my work truck, to go to the grocery store to get these things, come back to cook, forget 2 of the items, have to go back to the store to get that, come back, make everything. We're talking. I got, I'm trying to get everything coordinated. I make the dish. I go there. I grab the wine. We sit down for literally, I got there at 7:30, 40 minutes. You barely get the last piece of food in your mouth. I still had wine in my first glass, and I said, okay, I got to go. And I rushed out and came here to be with you guys. But long story short, was all that a baller move or a sadness? Like, is it more about like, oh, that was really suave, or man, you're pretty sad? Because I'm trying to figure that out. Ryan, you go first.
I wish things were better for you. I just in the whole,
in just life.
Just the whole thing,
I think
I wish your truck didn't overheat.
Oh yeah, no, that all that like I wish was a lot better. There is one really, like, my dad says, or my dad taught me, like, if don't do a good deed and then talk about it. And so I don't want to, but I also, he also taught me how to roll a blunt. So I don't, I don't mind.
And also, you've only ever talked about the good deeds.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
but that's why I'm bringing this up again. I really wanted like a pat on the back. But at the end of the day,
for cooking dinner.
for all the work I went through to see somebody for an hour, I felt like that was
but that was your work. That was work you caused.
Ryan, do you have an opinion?
All right, so I very much cannot get over the fact that, all right, all of this is starting to happen, and your biggest hang up with like Uber Eats or something is like, oh, is it going to be there on time? Meanwhile, you're spending 20 minutes walking. Now, listen, the effort is what it's all about. So, I mean, it probably earned you the points, and look, it does show that you wanted to make it. You said you were going to do it. You're going to commit to it. So good, stick to it. But I would have been like, yeah, listen, it would totally have been cool if you just like ordered from a Chinese place and they're, picked it up on the way. It probably would have been 10 times easier, but you also wouldn't have had this story. So what's it all worth?
Also don't like Chinese,
Oh,
made a bomb pasta, by the way. I'll share you guys the recipe anyways. But Allie's not here. I didn't want to just let everything and nothing go away. So she actually sent me some ideas for everything and nothing. I was going to wait till the end, till our guys came off, but they're still not here. So maybe we just do a regular podcast. So this one is good, though. Is that, hold on right here. Pete Davidson, she sent me this article. Pete Davidson says men should never show their feet. And then, she, of course, said, use this and talk about our boy, Matt Collins. So, one, should men show their feet? And two, should they show them as much as Matt Collins does? Like, where's Matt? Is Matt Collins, something's wrong with him scientifically, right? Like, there's no nerves in those feet anymore. Like, there's just no way that that's possible what he does. Because he walks, like, from his house, doesn't he, to the stadium? Like, is that might make...
I think you're making that part up.
No, it's true. I think
Right?
it is true. There were
I've
pictures
seen him-
a couple of weeks ago. I think it was during the regular season when he's walking from his house in Orchard Park to the stadium.
I don't know if he did that, in 3 degrees, but he definitely did that it was like a 20-degree day for sure.
I'm picturing the guy in Mr. Deeds that has like those or his actually is Mr. Deeds his feet. They're all black. They're all frozen.
I definitely think too many guys wear slides or flip flops all willy nilly. I think it's a beach wear or even maybe a camping wear if you're just kind of throwing them on. But I don't want to see Friday night at a bar playing darts and slides or flip flops. Like, it gets gross. You know your toes and they come off and then you're touching a floor and it's disgusting with your bare feet and you're not going home to shower before you go into bed. So now you bring all that bar shit into your bed, totally forgetting. So yeah, I don't need to see it out and about, but if you're just hanging out in the park or a beach, throw them on. But if you're going like out in public, you can't be wearing that. Your toes can't be out all willy nilly.
I also think there's a difference between like slides, which are more acceptable than the ones that have the little plastic in between your big toe and your second toe.
Yeah,
like, what are those? Yeah, the thong ones. What do you wear a thong on your foot for? It's just kind of weird.
Yeah.
I don't think Pete Davidson should have an opinion about anything. Too.
Oh yeah, I forgot he said that.
Yeah, like that's my whole thing. Like, have that opinion, but I don't want to Allie probably like takes his word as gospel or something. But I don't want to listen to anything about Pete Davidson. But I mean, we have friends. Kyle knows, and he didn't say my name, which was nice, but I know you were talking about me when you said people shouldn't go to bars and slides. I get it. I know who you're talking about. I appreciate that you didn't say my name, but I get all that. I am the Dumb and Dumber guy, in like April where I got to go in and they got to have the chainsaw. So sure. I really do. I'm not like we had our jokes with Allie segment. I really want to talk to an actual doctor to how does Matt Collins specifically avoid hypothermia?
Well, I'm as close to a doctor as you know. And
You're right.
that's weirdly true.
That I think that is actually.
He just your body just gets used to it. I
Well,
know
that's
you've
the
never
dumbest
physically
thing.
done anything hard in your life, but your body does adjust to that shit.
Did you just not hear about my story of what I did for an hour before I gave it? That was a lot of physical. Oh my god! Then I got there. This is. I shouldn't even say this because now you guys are gonna think that you're gonna just think she's using me. But I got there and she was like, "Oh, can you just help me bring this up real quick?" I'm like, "Sure." And it was like this big ass dresser, and it was like a dresser that she asked me, like when a girl that you just start seeing ask you, "Can you help me with this?" It, in her head, she knew it was a one man job, but like she said the word help to be, be polite. But it was not a one Louie job. I'll tell you that. But I also wasn't going to make her, grab a side of it. So like I just had like on my shoulder, and then she was on like the third floor in an apartment building. And I was like, I almost ended things on the second floor. And I just almost left it there and was like, hey, it's fun. You can keep the dinner. The dinner can stay here. I gotta go. I'm taking the wine though. Allie sent one more thing. Let me see what this is. I don't even know. Sorry. But everything and nothing. It's Allie's segment. She wanted still to be part of this. This actually is funny. I'm just reading couples that do unhealthy activities together, like eating junk food, feel closer than those who choose healthier activities. You two are very, very healthy and doing stuff. I want to say, I do not believe that, and I'm on the right side of that argument. But I have never felt like we were doing well. I never felt like me and that person were doing really good together. Do you find any merit in that?
You want to tell him no, Ryan, or do you want me to tell him no?
Yeah, I guess I think it's more just look when you're eating junk food together, it's just because we live in Buffalo and it's January and it's single degrees outside. So yeah, I mean, I don't know if that makes you feel closer together, but
yeah. I would also like to question: did Allie write this, or was this a like
it
a
was an
headline
article
she
that
put in?
it was an article that she said.
Because I would like to know what other besides eating, what other unhealthy. Because what if someone's what are you guys doing heroin together? That's unhealthy. What do you guys do? You know what I mean?
But you don't think they're not happy?
No, they're dead. They can't be that happy.
Well, that's just the firefighter in you. All right. Well, I'm Jared was supposed to maybe Jared will join us here, but we do have our other guest, and I want to bring him in. So let's bring in Ryan Talbot. Ryan, how you doing, bud?
Hey, I'm doing great. Enjoying the past few minutes of your conversation, guys.
I'm glad you are. It's been a lot. I know you know Ryan. I actually did. Aren't you? Does Ryan? Were you? Do you know Kyle Turner? Were you ever lucky enough to be on?
He was in the hunt regularly.
In the hunt, yes, yeah. I know that. I figured you were. So Kyle was my old guest host here just a few years ago, and now Allie's out today, so he stepped in. He heard you were going to be here, Ryan, and he couldn't miss out. Right, lots of stuff to talk about here. Let me just start off right away with, and I know you were one of the people that were getting attacked a lot during the week of the Ravens game. Got any fun Ravens receipts that you were good to Ravens fans or even other media members that you were happy to fight back on the next day, or what?
I didn't post too many receipts, but I definitely heard responses throughout the week. I received one email from a Ravens fan that the title was "Your Arrogance." And then he just ran into this random spiel about how the Ravens starters are going to be sitting by the fourth quarter. I did write back to him a brief message, but besides that, I didn't post anything on social media to be too petty, but I did enjoy that because I was just so out of the blue and random. It wasn't like I was posting any rah-rah stuff for the Bills or vice versa, but every now and then we get those fans of other teams that think we're bad mouthing them for whatever reason.
Yeah. This is something I was going to talk with Jeremy too, because Jeremy came at me and Nate Gary yesterday. And the only thing is, we just had posted, and I was just actually just piggybacking on Nate's point, was you get a lot less of that from the Kansas City fans. Now, is that because they're already on the top and they're like looking at us like we don't matter, or is that just their fan base? Do you have a kind of like an opinion on that? Because Jeremy came at us and was like, just stop being nice. We don't need the niceness. We can bring but to me, I'm like, I don't know. They have the reason to be shitty. They're the one team that the fan base that has the excuse to be shitty if they want. And they don't seem like a horrible fan base. What's your opinion on that?
Yeah, I mean, every fan base has a few of them, but it hasn't been bad from the Chiefs fans the last few years. I don't think that they just kind of think that the Bills are pushovers or anything like that, but the Bills haven't defeated them yet in the playoffs. If that were to happen on Sunday, I think all of a sudden it could get a little bit uglier in future matchups and playoffs down the road. This year, it got ugly really fast with the Ravens fans because of the whole MVP debate with Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson, and there was a lot of hostility there, and then all of a sudden it leads to this matchup in the divisional round, and that was one of the worst experiences. I remember with the Patriots heyday, and it seems funny saying that like it was that long ago. Like they were very arrogant. They were very full of themselves on social media. The Chiefs are not, for the most part. Their fan base is certainly more humble. And you're right. If any fan base could mouth off to anyone, it would be theirs. They're the team that has dominated in the AFC. This is their 7th straight championship game appearance. They've won the Super Bowl back-to-back years, 3 of the last 5 years. They've just been dominant in this, in the league itself, but they do not come across the way that the Ravens fans did last week.
Can I tell you why I think?
Yeah.
I think the Bills and the Ravens fans, I think we have very high little brother energy. Because we're not the Chiefs. Neither of us have beaten the Chiefs when it counted. So I think we're both trying to prove we're either as good, the team, not as a fan base.
Right.
I think we're trying to prove that we're the better team for the Chiefs. And at that point in time, we were just matched up with each other. So we had to focus our energy on each other. And in reality, we just haven't beaten the best team yet. So that's what I'm saying. We're still lower than that. So it's like we're fighting for number 2, realistically.
Right. Fighting for number 2.
When it comes to the Chiefs, it's like, well, we can't talk too much shit to the Chiefs. They've beaten us. We can talk a little bit of friendly humor. And the Chiefs fans go, well, yeah, they're a good opponent, so we can talk a little bit of shit. But what's the point of getting personal? We've beaten them every year when it counted. The Ravens was this new, like, it's like, again, we were both taking our anger out at the better team.
But I like that. I like that. And it's just that, both teams want to be the one to knock the Chiefs out of the playoffs. But until that happens, like you said, the little brother energy, it makes sense to me.
Who do you think, if the Chiefs were being honest and we got a truthful response out of them, who do you think they really would prefer to play in this matchup, the Bills or the Ravens? I mean, I think with the way the Bills are playing, I think they probably would prefer to play the Ravens, because the Ravens are more susceptible to potentially making mistakes, as they did. I know that the Chiefs have had, the Bills number as a team, but Josh has performed really well in those matchups, and Lamar's playoff numbers aren't really that impressive. So I personally think they probably would prefer to play the Ravens, but what do you think, Ryan?
Yeah, I went back and forth on this, and actually late in the week, I probably said they probably would have wished to play the Bills over the Ravens just because of the matchup itself. I know that the Ravens shot themselves in the foot multiple times in that Bills game. The turnovers, Lamar just dropping the one ball when Hamlin had him wrapped up and things like that. But Jackson is such a unicorn in the way that he plays and the way that you have to game plan for him. It's very difficult. You saw the Bills bring in Anthony Brown for a few days on the practice squad to just try to get someone that could even come close to mimicking what he does, which it's not close from what Anthony Brown to Lamar Jackson, but the mobility and trying to mimic that to a certain extent, where You look at this Bills team. Yep, the Bills beat them by 9. That's one reason where I think as well they want that little revenge factor. But both teams were missing a lot of players in that first matchup. And I think that the Chiefs at this point sit there and they say, okay, we know the Bills. And the Bills can say the same thing. At this point, it's almost like a divisional matchup because they're playing each other once in the regular season. It feels like almost every year they're playing each other in the playoffs. This team and vice versa know each other just as well as the Bills know the Dolphins, the Patriots, and the Jets at this point. Same thing for the Chiefs, knowing the Bills as well as they do the Chargers, the Raiders, and the Broncos. So the familiarity as well leads me to think that maybe they would have chosen the Bills for that matter. But Josh Allen is a guy, like you said, who can take over a game and lead this team where you get a lead on the Ravens. They've shown in years past that they get to a certain point threshold and they can't get over that, even if the defense is playing a great game.
Yeah, that's a really solid point. My whole thought process on who they would have rather played is I do think that the answer is they don't give a shit. I mean, at the end of the day, they've handled us both when it's needed to matter, or when it has mattered. I wonder how aware they are, the Chiefs I'm speaking of what everybody else seems to be aware of, and that's just they're not the same. And I know that's so dumb to say for a team that only lost one real game all season, but they just don't feel like the same Chiefs. Do you think that? And even when I say that, I know a lot of those close and goofy games were the first half of the season, and the second half of the season they have been kind of cruising. What are your thoughts on that, right? Do you feel like they are the same Chiefs, or do you think that they are this year is a little bit different? They're going to have to, is it, if they lose to the Bills, let's say this, is it because they've come down, or do you think it's because the Bills have come up to their level?
I think it's a little bit of a mix of both. It's not the same type of Chiefs team that we've seen in years past. But I will say over the last 4 to 5 weeks, they're starting to look more like the Chiefs of old. And it's Hollywood Brown comes back from the injury that he suffered at the start of the season where he missed all that time. By him coming back into the mix, he's never been like a superstar game changer on his own. But that allows Xavier Worthy to move into a spot, the proper spot in this offense of Kansas City. And they have Pacheco, who they didn't have in that first match against the Bills. DeAndre Hopkins is getting acclimated again. Travis Kelce in the playoffs just kind of flips the switch, and they still have Noah Gray. The O-line is solid there too, and defensively as well. Up front, they still have Chris Jones, who they love to move around on. Passing downs to the exterior and then on the rundown, stay on the interior. That's going to be one of the fun matchups in this game, though, is Spencer Brown versus Chris Jones when he is outside trying to get after Josh Allen. I do think that they've played better in the last 4 to 5 games, but they've had a lot of fluky wins. The blocked field goals, the bad snap against the Raiders where the quarterback wasn't ready for it. They had a lot go their way this year where you could look back and say that a lot of teams in their scenarios would have ended up having 4 to 5 losses. It's just every break went their way for one reason or another. So I feel like they've come down a little bit this year. The Bills have by far exceeded expectations. Their own GM, after the Stephon Diggs trade, sat there and used the term reset in terms of it's going to be a reset year of sorts. We're not rebuilding. We're not tearing this thing down. But the team's not as good as it was pre-trade. We're going to try to fill in some pieces, and you've seen them in Eagle-less offense really come alive. They're getting contributions across the board. Guys like Ty Johnson, who you knew that based on the end of last season what he could do in terms of running the ball, catching the ball in the backfield, but he's gone to another level this year, and they've had Curtis Samuel all of a sudden come out and start making some plays here and there, sprinkled in, nothing significant. They still haven't had Amari Cooper minus the one game against the Rams really have a major stat line. So they're finding ways to win, and I really think that this game against the Chiefs, it wouldn't shock me if someone comes out of nowhere and has that legacy type of game. Now, if you're asking me who, I would probably say Dalton Kincaid. They have some struggles against tight ends, and Kincaid hasn't had that one moment yet as a member of the Bills where I could see him now, knee being healthy, and it could be Knox too. They love Knox in the postseason. but someone's going to have to step up for this team and be a significant factor if the Bills are going to move on Sunday night.
Just not, and Kyle and Ryan, you could have a question here. I don't want to lose my train of thought. You just mentioned the name, and I listened back to our last chat, and you nailed Shakir when we were talking about kind of like a fantasy, a fantasy thing, and you did speak well of Shakir, and you thought that he was going to be the target hog that he was. And you like we all were really high on Kincaid.
Yeah.
What's your read on him? What is it? Is it him? Is it the team? Is it Brady? What is the reason? Because even Knox kind of looks like, and we know the difference in athleticism and stuff like that. Knox looks like he could be playing the same role that Kincaid is. So what's going on with what's happening with Kincaid?
Yeah. So first with Kincaid, coming off of last year, he breaks all these, not just rookie records, but the tight end records in Buffalo. And I know they don't have a track record of having these elite players at the position, but for a rookie to do that, you think, okay, year 2, he's going to be even better. Then they trade Stephon Diggs and you start to think, well, he's going to be the main target. He's going to get all these targets. It's going to be much like what Travis Kelce was in the heyday. I just don't think he's there yet. I don't think, even though he's an older prospect, I don't think his skill set was ready to take on that type of role. And I was definitely wrong about him. I thought he was in line for a monster year. I know I grabbed him on a fantasy team or two, thinking that it was going to be this great year for him, and it hasn't happened yet. And, he had the knee injury late in the season. That certainly affected him. He's come back now. He looks pretty healthy now. But the other thing I'll mention is he still has a long way to go as a blocker. That is where Dawson Knox, he's not an elite blocker, but from where he was year 1 out of where they drafted him from Ole Miss, because he was an athlete too. He was not an all-around tight end. He's really developed into a guy that you can keep on the field. And the way they run the ball this year, it's really points to Knox getting a large target share, or snap share, I should say. So Kincaid needs to work on some parts of his game, rounding it out. And if he can do that, I still think that he has a high ceiling. I just don't think he's going to end up being one of those elite tight ends like I actually thought he could be going into year 2.
Yeah, I think he's been a huge disappointment. I think he deserves more criticism too, just especially considering the high, value pick that they spent on him. I mean, I remember I was pounding the table for them to go trade up and get JSN. I mean, he fell all the way to 20. They could have made a similar move potentially to get Brian Thomas. So the moves will definitely be judged in future years to see, if they can replace that position. But my question is looking forward to next year, not to get ahead of ourselves, but let's think about what's going to happen next year. It can be with a specific position or just overall philosophy, but they're going to have more cap room. They sort of took their medicine with a lot of the cap hit this year. The dead cap, I should say. So is there a position or something that you think they're going to specifically go out and look to upgrade? Because, I mean, the offensive line has definitely gelled so much better this year. Where are they still lacking? Where do you think their first need is going to be when the dust settles for the offseason?
Defensive line as a whole. Defensive tackle is the first thing that comes to mind, but I will say that, and I have not done any deep draft work yet, but I've seen a lot of the draft analysts mention this is an extremely deep defensive tackle draft. If you're a Bills fan, that makes you very happy. They still need to get that guy that can plug in, take on double teams, which allows Ed Oliver to run a little bit more freely. They've kind of been, Daquan Jones hasn't looked the same this season. He's getting a little bit older, and they're going to retreads like Jordan Phillips, who he and both guys were cut there at the trade deadline, and they bring them both back in at defensive tackle for the Bills. So Quentin Jefferson being the other, that is. So they definitely need to upgrade the defensive tackle position. That's the first thing that comes to mind. DJ Jones, a free agent in Denver. He was a guy that played extremely well in that wild card matchup against the Bills. If they wanted to go the free agent route, he'd be a top target. But it's just an extremely deep class, so it wouldn't shock me if the Bills' first-round pick was a D tackle. And then for the edge position, Von Miller, He's come on as of late, but that's just a bad contract. You have to really look for the future. You're hoping Greg Rousseau continues to ascend. He has taken steps every year. He isn't necessarily taking that big step that I think the Bills had hoped he would take. Really solid against the run, flashes at times as a pass rusher. But then the depth after that gets a little bit shaky. Smoot came in and kind of emerged as that third defensive end for the Bills. AJ Epinesa is very up and down. He made some great plays in that game against the Ravens last week, but the consistency has always been the factor there. And I like Javon Solomon's skill set, but you don't want to depend on a day 3 pick to develop into this game record. Can it happen? Yes. He's shown some flashes in terms of using his speed and athleticism to get by tackles, but he's missed a few sacks late in the season where he's had the quarterback in his wraps and in his arms, and he's just let the guy out and escape. So they have talent there. They don't have a difference maker. And you can say, okay, in terms of free agency, what could they do? They could try a Khalil Mack on a 1-year deal. I know that, linebacker is natural position, but that's what Von Miller's natural position was too. And in this system, he can be coming off of the edge. It feels like Max Crosby is doing everything in his power to say, trade for me to the Buffalo the way he's talked about in the last few weeks. Just heaping praise upon them, but trades are easier said than done. I've seen a lot of Bills fans mention Crosby, in Cleveland, Myles Garrett, guys like that, especially Garrett. You're not just going to give them away. That's going to be multiple high picks. Crosby's still only 27 years old. That would be a lot. Now the Bills have a 1 and 2 twos. Would they be willing to maneuver some of those picks to get a difference maker off the edge, knowing that they haven't had the greatest draft history, especially at that position where Epinesa, Boogie Basham come to mind in the same draft class, and Rousseau is solid but not superstar status. It wouldn't shock me, but defensive line as a whole is what I'm looking at if I'm the Bills.
You mentioned Von Miller, and Kyle, if you have another question, we got him for a couple more minutes here, and then we'll let you go.
Hey, you guys are fine.
Yeah.
But
well, thanks for giving me the floor then, Lou. Then you take the time.
Yeah, no, I will. No, and it's something that you and I mentioned at the game together. It's just, and again, I don't want to lose trick, but you mentioned Von Miller, and it just made me think of me and Kyle were laughing at the stadium together on that play. Legitimately the only person out of the 78,000 people that were in that stadium that thought Von Miller was scoring on that play was Von Miller. I mean, yes. he looked like he thought, and he actually even joked around about it on Instagram the next day, like saying he thought, but it was just so, I mean, I wanted nothing more than him to just get on the ground and not get that ball punched out from behind. Like the biggest accomplishment of that play was that he didn't get that ball punched out, but it was just really funny, him grunting down the field, really truly believing that he was scoring that touchdown.
Yeah, he was realistic about it. He said he hit the second gear too quickly, should have been in first gear a little bit longer. He didn't have that breakaway speed that he used to. And the funniest part of it is when he was tackled, he went face first and both of his contacts came out of his eyes. So, one of those things where it just kind of adds to the hilarity of it as he's trying to, go down that field, and he had no shot. He said he saw 4 or 5 white jerseys and he knew it was over at that point.
Kyle?
My question, if you had to give your best guess for this Chiefs game, do you think this is a game where they let Josh Allen throw the ball? Or do you think they're still going to, because I know there's been a lot of talk about that Baltimore game about it seemed like they were almost trying to not let him throw the ball. I don't know if they were, no one said this, but if they were like, we really can't let him make a mistake, but it seemed like he's, maybe the best player on the planet. And it seemed like they were playing a very conservative game plan. Now with the Chiefs, do you think that continues, or you think they're going to be like, we got to let Josh be Josh for this one, or we go home? Because it's playoffs. So my fear is that they're still going to try to be like, let's just play this close and hope we end up with the ball last, which was going to happen in Baltimore.
Right.
So, luckily that 2-point conversion, and I said this, and I'm not the biggest homer of a fan, but I was like, yeah, minute 30, Josh Allen, two timeouts. I'll take those chances every day of the week. But what if it's reversed? You know what I mean? What if we score and now because Patrick Mahomes is scoring that too? We'd all know if that exact same thing happens next week, Mahomes has the ball, we're all walking in the other room assuming we're losing. So do you think they're going to unload him this game and just be like, yeah, we have to let him throw? Better things happen when he throws the ball.
I don't think he's going to be like one of those 40 attempt type of games, but yeah, you do need to get him more pass attempts in this matchup. They're still going to come out and try to establish the run. They didn't use Alec Anderson a lot in the first matchup with the jumbo sets. I think they still feel like line versus line, they can beat anyone. I mean, they just pushed around the Broncos and the Ravens, two of the best run defenses in the entire league. So I do think they want to establish that. If you get the run game going, that really does open some things up in the passing game. I thought that was a big mistake in that Ravens game, is when they were running it very well. Sometimes Joe Brady it's like that kid that plays Madden, and you play the same play over and over and over again. You spam it. He was doing that, and eventually the Ravens kind of caught on to what they were doing in the second half. They were shutting it down, where I would have liked to see a play action on an early down, try to get something, even in the intermediate range, get some chunk yards there, because they were up 21-10 at halftime. You could have put them really behind with the double dip if they come out in the third quarter and score a touchdown. It was too conservative. It wasn't great. So yes, I think you're going to see an increase in the pass attempts, but they're not going to come out here, and it's not going to be a Brian Dable type of game where it's like 40, 45 pass attempts and you forget that they have a running back. They like these guys way too much, and James Cook, Ty Johnson, even Ray Davis. And I do think that they feel like they're not going to shoot themselves in the foot with anything too significant. They know that the Chiefs aren't either. So that's why you have to let Allen throw a little bit more. I think they were banking on a few mistakes by the Ravens in the cold weather, which came to fruition. Really could have had 2 interceptions on Lamar Jackson. DeMar Hamlin was just kind of out of place on a long ball to Bateman. That I can't remember if it went for like 41 yards or what it went. It went down to like the 2-yard line, and he was just out of place. He was right there, and he stopped dropping back on the ball. So they played it very well for the most part, and they need to know that the turnovers aren't likely from Kansas City this week in this game. So you do have to let Allen open things up a little bit.
Isn't it crazy that like the consensus is finally here in the league, since McDermott's been around, that maybe running is, important again. You got the Barkley and the Henry years and the RBs becoming matter. And it's got to be like a wet dream for McDermott that like guys are like, saying running's, important again. And at the end of the day, the line is the best that it's been, forgetting the McDermott era. I mean, since maybe the 90s. And this is, and they eat up the running game, and you got 2 good running backs and 3, like you said, with Ty Johnson and stuff. So I don't think that they're getting away from that much at all. I do think that's still going to be a big part of their game plan this week. To kind of counteract Kyle or answer Kyle's question, even though I was sitting 2 seats next to him at the game, and he could have asked then, but I really do think that a lot of that was about the cold. I thought it was a horrible game plan, but I think that the fact that they were going so short and intermediate had a lot to do with just the actual weather. But man, I mean, what was it? Like, third and 5 screen pass to Knox play was really where I was like, come on, man, what are we doing here? Like, let him make one play. And even, the biggest thing about Josh, where you want to, where people fight about the MVP stuff and all that, or what, why the numbers don't show some of his biggest growth. There was 3 or 4 times in that game where he got to his third read, which was just a check down, that wasn't, you didn't know that from Josh 2 years ago. He wasn't, he was throwing that ball in the double coverage as the first or second read. And I think that's honestly, as much as it's not exciting for us, his biggest improvement. I know we got to let you go here just right before we do leave. Just any thoughts on the 4 major injuries and what you're thinking about their availability?
Yeah, Taylor Rapp is the one that worries me the most in terms of availability. Obviously, with the hip injury, I didn't mind them carting him off, but the fact that he didn't even participate in a limited capacity in a walkthrough today, usually if you think you're trending in the right direction, you'd be limited in that area. Cole Bishop, it'd be a big task for him to come in along with DeMar Hamlin, but that's why they also brought in Micah Hyde. And Sean McDermott, to that point, I think they've kind of agreed this is a player-coach situation. You're coaching up these guys. He's done a great job with Cole Bishop over the last, however many weeks he's been in Buffalo. That's kind of been his role, is teach him all the nuances of what you see, sit down and watch film with him, get him ready for the game. So you're going to need a lot out of Cole Bishop in this matchup if Rapp can't go. Dean Dawkins, just kind of an illness that's going around. Obviously, no concerns there. Matt Milano, they didn't label it as an injury. Just some tightness, some soreness with the hamstring. So they're going to err on the side of caution there. I think he could go without practicing all week and still play on Sunday because he knows all the ins and outs of this system. And then I'm trying to think here off the top of my head, who am I missing?
Okay, Benford.
Benford limited today, trending in kind of that same Ray Davis over the course of the week, is going further and further, progressing through the system. That was on that onside kick with the, taking that helmet-to-helmet contact. He seemed fine in the locker room after the game. He was doing a one-on-one interview. He was interacting with his teammates perfectly normal. And I get it. It doesn't mean you don't do that if you, even if he had the concussion, he could have been acting like that. But he seemed fine. I think he's trending in a good direction to play. And that would be huge because I still have questions about Rasul Douglas. And to go back to a previous question, after D-line, corner is the next area that they have to address in free agency or the draft this year. I feel good about that one in terms of him playing. And I think that's it for the injuries.
Benford's a little just scary just because I think tomorrow's the day, right? Like I think tomorrow he needs to at least practice in some capacity to have, like, isn't the protocol meaning you have to have a full practice in by Thursday or no?
No, because Ray Davis didn't even have a full last week, and we heard nothing.
He was surprising.
Yeah, we heard nothing on Saturday, but when they didn't elevate a running back, which I went back and forth on that too, where you're going to really elevate Frank Gore Jr. in that matchup, expect him to come in and play a significant role, where they probably would just go with the two backs, and at worst case scenario, Gilliam in that role is running back 3, but he was available.
Curtis Samuel.
Yeah, Curtis Samuel. I mean, that's how he kind of made his bread and butter with Joe Brady the last time, because that was after Christian McCaffrey got hurt in Carolina and he took on a bigger role. That's true too. So they had the bodies there, but he was available by Sunday, and we never did get that original or that email or the text from the team saying he's clear the concussion protocol, he's good to go, but he was. So I don't know if they had until game day or what that was, but we never got the official word until the game itself.
Do you think that there is, and again, not to put on my tinfoil cap here, but do you think that there's a little bit of difference in this protocol to start players in the playoffs rather than week 12 of the regular season? It seems like, I'll say this, a star player has not missed a game in the playoffs due to a concussion since this protocol started. I'll say that.
I mean, they still have to get the clearance from an independent neurologist, but it certainly seems like where teams at least would err on the side of caution, maybe in the regular season, they're all about trying to progress it as best they can. But every symptom's different. You've had Tua, for instance, a few years ago, not be able to go in the playoffs because of that. We know with him though, those concussions linger and they're weeks, months long. That's not normal for a lot of the players that suffer them. So I get what you're saying. It does seem like a lot of players are able to play the following week. And I think that the Bills having this full week is going to benefit Christian Benford in terms of being available by Sunday night.
Thanks, Ryan. I appreciate it. Anybody, you guys got any closing thoughts?
Prediction? Are we winning? What do you think?
Oh, yeah, let's do a prediction.
So I'll say this. Last week, before the Ravens game, we have the Shout Insiders. We have this text line, and one person said that the Bills were 6-1 when I picked against them the last 2 seasons. So I went into last week, and I took the Ravens, and we know how that went. So I'm taking the Chiefs this week for the sake of the insiders, trying to keep that trend alive. So a close one, but yeah, I'll go with the Chiefs because the first message I ended up having after the game was over was that same person going 7-1. So it's kind of like the Joe Brady 1-0, 7-1. So hopefully moving that to 8-1 for the sake of Bills fans this weekend.
That's awesome. Well, Ryan, thanks for joining us. Go Bills, and we'll reach out in the offseason. Hope to have you back.
All right, sounds great. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, buddy. Appreciate it. Well, that's great. That doesn't make me. I think the injuries I'm really worried about more than he was. He seems like, and again, the concussion. I've gotten in an argument with somebody about this on the pod. I know he's got to be a little PC because of his job, but like I feel like Benford is not missing this game. 100% would bet he's going to magically clear that concussion protocol.
Well, it doesn't need to magically clear. It's normal to clear it within a week.
But it's not. Most players, it's 58% that most players again who is how you determining the grade of the concussion, yada yada. But 58% do miss at least 1 week when it comes to the regular season. But those numbers change pretty drastically when you talk playoffs and whatever. I'm not judging. I would just rather be more like the guy that was arguing me about it was like, oh, you think someone's going to risk losing their doctor's license? Yeah. I mean, yeah, maybe, like, I don't know. But I don't know. That's that. Milano, though, everyone's just like, oh, this Milano thing isn't really, they're downplaying and blah, blah, blah. The dude didn't play the last 4 plays of a must-win situation on defense. I'm sorry if I don't believe that he's not a little messed up, right? Like, and then the Rap thing does sound pretty real, and the even if Rap's the only one that misses out of all of them, that's scary as fuck. I don't know.
Well, I'm just going off of years of watching McDermott. He usually doesn't lie about injuries. Like severity of injuries. He's never really he's usually been pretty blunt with it. So
yeah,
that's how I've looked at it. We're like,
but did you hear the first reaction to the Milano thing when they asked him the next day and he was like, oh, I don't even know if it was due to an injury and I haven't heard anything yet. And it was at like noon. It was like noon the next day. Come on, dude. Like, that's being like, come on, you don't know if your star defensive player got banged up and that's why he wasn't out the last 4 plays. So again, that was a little shady. And I agree with you. I think he's been pretty upfront. So that's even what scares me more is that he wasn't upfront in this situation. And maybe you're not going to convince me he didn't know anything at noon the next day. Sorry, you're not going to convince me of that. So he was definitely downplaying a little bit. But it does seem like we might be playing this game without Rap, and that's scary as hell, right? I mean,
yeah. But as I keep on just going back to last year when they literally had like street free agents starting, then I'm like, all right, I'd like to think Taylor Rapp isn't going to decide the outcome of this game this year.
Yeah.
And last year, AJ Klein absolutely did. Decide the outcome of that game when he decided not to cover Travis Kelce, which again, I said it last year, not even his fault. That guy shouldn't have been out there. You know what I mean? If the Bills came to me and were like, hey, you want a couple $1 million for like 2 games? I'd be like, yeah, fuck it. You're lost.
I got a couple more fun things for us here to talk about, and then we'll wrap up. But all right, so this was fun. I was going to ask.
I got a thing too. Or are you doing this so you don't slip your mind?
No, go on. You do the thing first. You do your thing, and then I'll do my thing.
Love that Lou forgets like pens and paper don't exist. Like you can't just jot it down to bring up.
Well, go ahead.
So this game, I don't know if it's been talked about at all or too much. This week, I got a little bit of the bubble guts all week, so I don't really like to listen to stuff about the game. You know what I mean? Yeah. The Amari Cooper, DeAndre Hopkins trades. Both players were talked about coming to the Bills or the Chiefs. We each get one. Hopkins outplays Amari stats wise.
Not much. Not much. But
No, not too much. And Amari missed 2 games, but he's got 20 receptions for 300 yards and 2 touchdowns. Hopkins on the Chiefs has 41 receptions for 440 yards and 4 touchdowns. So it's a little more, but like neither of them are making plays that maybe each fan base thought they were going to. Going back, do you think Hopkins you think he'd be better on this team because he's a more prominent role? And do you think he's like better than Cooper? Or do you think it's just right now these players are just what they are and neither of them would really make a huge difference?
I think at least with respect to the Bills, this is all by design. Now, I think the Bills, when they're looking to fill out this wide receiver room for this season, they wanted to pick certain roles. So they knew Shakir was going to be their underneath kind of slot guy, reliable target monster who can, get open in the middle of the field and has really good contact balance. Then they wanted an outside guy, which is why I always thought they wanted, Keon wasn't great in college at outside, but he's really good in the one-on-one contested situations. I think in his, down the line, I still think he could be an X receiver. Now I think it showed a lot when they went out and traded for Cooper, not because he has a big impact, like you say, but again, I think going towards next year, they're still looking to have another guy out there. They need another, not necessarily alpha, number one, that's going to be a Diggs replacement, but someone, again, to take attention away and have legitimate options out there. They just want to have enough legitimate options that you have to keep them guessing. So I don't think Hopkins would have done much, if any, better on the Bills, and Cooper, vice versa. He probably would have a similar output to what he's doing here.
Yeah, I don't think either of them have much different of a skill set. Yeah, I think they are similar players to a certain extent, too, even though I think Cooper's probably the better player today. I think a lot of like what happened with Cooper, like bringing Cooper in may have not been the exact role or player that they wanted, but I think that his ability to put ego, he doesn't have that ego over the team, and I think that was a big reason why they were okay with bringing him in, is that they knew that there was probably going to be games like this, last game where he doesn't get involved at all, and they probably even were pretty upfront with him about it, but they probably knew that he wasn't going to be a wide receiver diva or a Diggs and an issue and making it a problem. And you can't tell me that there's still not a really good chance that in one of these next 2 games he plays a really big role because it's his turn that day. So I'm fine with it. I still think the price was right. I love him as his personality. It wasn't what they needed, and I know I was with you, Kyle, when it happened. I know you were really excited, or everybody was like. I just didn't think it was the skill set that they needed. But so if Cooper's not on this team, and they don't do anything, they don't get anybody. Who's got that spot? Like, is it's Hamler, or where are we going? What's our next guy up?
Somebody that doesn't matter.
There's a 0% chance that the guy that's filling Amari Cooper's spot is already on this team. That's what I feel like he's.
You think either way that they would have found something to do?
I think maybe, honestly, I don't think it matters that much, but I mean, is there a chance it's Dalton Kincaid gets a little more run out there?
I don't think he has it. I'm
not saying he'd be good. I'm saying
no,
he would have been out there a little more.
I mean, he's already getting pulled off the field, and for Dawson Knox. So I can't imagine that they would just want to put more on Kincaid's plate because he hasn't shown an ability to really turn that into anything, other than a brief period during his rookie season.
When Ryan Talbot mentioned like, he's got to find a way to get better, blocking to be out there more. Well, how many routes are tight ends getting after a block? Some guys are doing that chip block and then whatever route, but like that's not giving them any more routes. That's, I understand his point to make him look more valuable to the team, but No, man. I mean, right now they haven't asked him to do any of the other stuff. They've only asked him to be simple. They've only asked him to be a pass catcher, and he's not doing that well.
Well, I've said this to Lou, but let me say this to Ryan because I want to know if it makes sense because half the time Lou's too high to even look at me. Now, I've said before, this is what I've said is I think it takes a certain type of coordinator to like focus on a tight end, right? There's only a handful of tight ends that really even get above like 500 yards receiving. And with Brady in general, none of our guys have a lot of yards. I mean, we don't have 1,000-yard receiver, right? And then from Shakir, the next is like Mac Hollins at like 500 or so yards. And then Keon Coleman, who missed 4 games. And he's like third on this team. So I'm saying with maybe Joe Brady isn't a guy to focus on the tight end when he's game planning. And he's already a guy that spreads the ball all around. No one on this team outside of Cook and Allen like put together a fantasy year that would be, you know what I mean? That you would look at even from a stats perspective and be like, man, they had a really good year. If you were not a Bills fan and you looked at the Bills stats, you'd be like, all of their wide receivers are garbage. And Shakir is okay.
Yeah, and I guess your point is you think that that's by design. You think that's kind of the whole purpose of his offense.
I'm not saying he's a Travis Kelce or fucking even an Evan Ingram, but I'm saying that I think he is him and Knox. I think they're both in a system that doesn't spotlight them and doesn't even give them like safety outlets. Because a lot of tight ends will get those like 5-yard safety catches in the flats, and that's all going to our running backs.
Yeah, and I think the reason the Bills have been unwilling to do that with Kincaid is because he's not the traditional size of a tight end. He is more of that, slot receiver type, that he's not, an inline blocking tight end per se. But yeah, maybe it is a product of the system. If you think back to Joe Brady when he was in Carolina too, he did have those 1,000-yard receivers with Curtis Samuel, DJ Moore, and who else am I forgetting? Somebody else.
Robbie Anderson.
Yeah, was it? I think it was actually
Anderson. Maybe.
Yeah, that's right.
I don't know what he was.
The chosen one. But look, in that offense, that was a much more high variance. They haven't wanted to play that way this year because they want Josh to just like really protect the football, understand that you just don't beat yourself. And I think that's smart. My most, the boomer belief that I actually, the one that I hold in highest regard right now is that it does actually matter about running the football in the playoffs when it gets cold. And, that is how you win games in January. So I'm all for how they're doing it. I just don't think Kincaid has the talent to be like that difference maker. And, as a first round pick, as a first round tight end, it's really disappointing to not feel like you're going to get that out of him.
Yeah, it's the worst. All right.
I got a question for Ryan.
Jesus.
Now,
do I I can't answer it at all, or just my answer?
I thought you were done. You're already looking down. You're fucking on Twitter or something dumb.
I know.
He was. Look at it. That's how he knew. He was on Twitter.
Yeah, and I'm not on Twitter. I'm just already. I'm responding to the text. I already got a text from. I got a thank you text for dinner. That's all. I was just responding. So I just want you both to know that.
So Ryan and I'll take this over. And you don't worry about it.
And I'm going to leave and ride my Huffy over there just to take out her garbage. I'll be right back.
There's no way a bike has air in it for you. There's no way. You're going to be riding a frame over there. Now, Ryan, if I'm not mistaken, I came on the podcast around draft time, and you said you were like Keon Coleman's biggest fan, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Am I wrong in saying you thought he was like the best receiver in the draft?
I did not have him as the best receiver in the class. I had him in the tier 2 as my wide receiver 2. So yeah, a bit high for what he's done so far. Yes.
My question was going to be, how has that worked out for you, for your expectations? And Is it going to change how you look at wide receivers in the future because you were wrong?
So I I think a couple things. First of all, there definitely have been some flashes this year, which you can see it at certain times.
I'm with you.
There's a lot of reasons why he's not necessarily. I mean, he was injured for a big portion of the year. He, late from meeting, learning lessons. He's a rookie. It wasn't the smoothest sailing. He garnered, I think, in the 70s. I think 75 targets or something like that. Maybe that's not true. No, I think it's actually less than that. But don't fact check me on that one. But in my mind,
very confidently.
In my mind, he had 75 targets at least. So listen, I think he's done enough to me to show that he could be a future number one receiver. And that's all I really wanted to see from him this year. I was expecting more out of the gate because I thought he would come in and be a little bit more polished. He is raw, but I like his hands. I think that's a big part of his game. I don't care about the separation stuff because if you get, trust with a quarterback, I think he can go up and win win the contested catch balls. And so, but yeah, I mean, he's certainly not the wide receiver 2 in this class. My wide receiver 1, being Marvin Harrison, I'm seriously doubting that now too, with not only Neighbors, but, Brian Thomas also looking excellent. McConkey, I was down on him because I just couldn't believe that he would actually be good.
Telling everybody, you can stop.
I know. I'm getting crushed here.
He was bringing up every mistake he ever made. He's like, my first girlfriend in the 6th grade. I didn't hold her hand on the way to 3rd period. We did break up, and I would like to apologize in public. I'll say this about Keon Coleman. I wasn't his biggest fan, and I don't think he can separate to save his life. The guy can't get open for anything. But it is crazy. When the ball is in his hands, he becomes like the most fluid runner I've ever watched. but man, when the ball's not in his hands, this dude's running. He's running like Forrest Gump before the braces came off. I'm like, yo, what? Is this the same guy? But I'm telling you, when he catches a slant or something, it's like he's like a joystick. But man, maybe he could change positions or something. But
we've just kind of like joked around like when he's just like out of the break, just like trying to get like open. It's like he's shadow boxing like a ghost. He's just, and he's not separating. It's just so great. Yeah, no, I still have a lot of hope for Keon. Not like, especially like you want to talk about him in a fantasy aspect, you could probably get him like, especially around draft time, people are already ready to give up on him and excited about like an early 2nd rounder. Might be able to get him for something like that.
You get him for less than that, I think. People yeah, I think a lot of people are down on him because he didn't have like those big spike games. No game that got you really excited to have him in the lineup this year.
And I do think he's going to be more valuable to the Buffalo Bills than he will be for fantasy, mostly because of Joe Brady's offense. And, is always going to be a thing. But like things like he did against the Ravens, which I know is definitely an offensive pass interference. I'm not arguing that. But he's going to draw those calls because he does battle for the ball. And I think Josh has already realized that. I think he threw that ball knowing that he was just trying to draw a penalty there. And he did. So I think he does have value to this team. I think he will get better. I don't know if he'll ever be a great fantasy player. And, we'll hope that you'll get there. Right. Marvin Harrison, I don't have any hope for either. And I was really high on him with you. So, but I'm not going to go. I'm not going to.
Pretty don't good ever. Year. You guys still hold hope for Keon Coleman.
Yeah. Still hold hope. All right. This is fun. Out of besides Allen and Jim Kelly, obviously, 7 other players have thrown a touchdown pass in the playoffs.
Oh my gosh. For the Bills or in the NFL?
What's that?
What'd
you say?
It was a joke.
Was it a bad one? Okay. 7 other players have thrown a playoff touchdown pass for the Buffalo Bills besides Jim Kelly and Josh Allen. Work together on this. We won't go back and forth. You guys can work together.
Frank Reich.
Frank Reich is 1. He's number 3. He's got 7.
Tyrod.
Tyrod? No.
He did not against.
Wow. Oh, remember we got shut down. I'm
going to say Rob Johnson.
Rob Johnson, no. And I thought he should have been on here, but they didn't score a passing touchdown in that wild card game.
It's Doug Flutie.
Doug Flutie has won, and that was, I believe, he played at the Dolphins game where what was it? Where Andre Reed or Molds? No, I think it was Reed. And his last game as a Billy spiked it and we got down to like the 3 and he spiked it. We were about to tie it up and they gave him a 15-yard penalty and we ended up losing. But anyways, yeah, Flutie was that. So 1, so you got 2 guys. You got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 more.
Jack Kemp.
Jack Kemp has 2.
Nice. Does that count as 2?
Yep. No, it does not.
Oh.
But he does have 2. He was 5th all time with 2. So yeah, I'll say so. Allen has 23. Kelly has 21. Reich is number 3 with 7. You're still missing the number 4 guy. Jack Kemp was 5th with 2, and then 6, 7, 8, and 9 all only have 1. And one of those guys was Doug Flutie, who you already named.
Ferguson.
Joe Ferguson is number 4, and he had 6. So that's your guy there. So now you got everybody but 5, 8, and 9, and there are 3 guys that only have 1 touchdown.
Is his I don't know how to say his name. Joe DeLama Lira. Joe DeLama.
What?
Lira.
He was a DeLama Lure. It was offensive lineman.
Well, was he or did he not throw a touchdown pass?
Yeah, you're right. He didn't have to not.
Okay.
Just because he was an offensive lineman doesn't mean it was he couldn't have. No, he did not.
Is there a non-quarterback on this list?
There is one non-quarterback on this
list. Is it
list.
Kenneth Davis?
It is not.
No, it's John Brown.
There you go. John Brown against the Houston Texans. Josh Allen, yeah.
Great cut.
That's a good one. 2 more. Man, I don't remember the 8th guy, and obviously I'll say this: the 9th guy before our time, but you would know the name. And 8th guy happened in our lifetime, and it had to be in garbage time, I'd imagine, if that helps you at all. Offensive coordinator in the league.
Alex Van Pelt.
Alex Van Pelt has 1 touchdown pass. I can't tell you when. I'll look it up. And then the other, Daryl LaMonica.
That's who I think I was thinking of.
Yeah, but you said an offensive lineman instead. Yep. So that's good.
Yeah.
All right, real quick before we wrap up, let me just see, because I had a couple things I wanted to make sure that I talked about. Talk amongst yourselves. Fans, Kyle, all right, you sit in you had Goodell right behind you, right? You sit in the good seats, the expensive seats. You had Ryan Goodell right behind you. I feel like, how do you feel like me and Kyle are poor, and we've only been lucky enough to sit in those seats once. And I don't know how you feel, Kyle. I mean, we sat in those games for the perfect game against the Patriots. So it was a great game, a playoff game. So I felt like it was really a good environment, and you felt it there. Do you ever feel like you're not getting the full drunken experience when you're just sitting there under heat around rich people, Brian?
No, it isn't. It definitely is a different experience, but I would.
It is a little bit
anything. Right? I mean, those heaters alone are the savior.
We're just jealous. I'm not sitting here making fun of it.
But it is. It's not the same. It's just like, when the Sabres were good, right? Sitting in the 200s is not the same as the 100s or the 300s. It's just like that. So, but no, I would not give it up for pretty much anything. I'd prefer that. So
I'll tell you one thing you probably deal with there that we deal with up there, and I think everyone deals with it everywhere. And Kyle and I really haven't even discussed this much, but it happened. It's been happening for years, but we had an incident at the game on Sunday. We have I mean, I know that everybody says this, and you always have that one or two person that at the Sabres game that's screaming shoot, or on the power play and all that stuff. All those idiots. We have, I don't know, the worst 4 people in the world behind us. I mean, the worst, and their season ticket holders. Are they the worst? I mean, they're the worst. They're the bad. Maybe Kyle.
They could be worse.
You think they could be
In
worse?
fact, the one time they brought a guy who's worse.
Oh yeah, but he was kind of cool. He shit his pants and screamed blitz all day. Legit shit his pants. He was really annoying. Did we get into it with him or no? He was just annoying, right?
No,
and then,
he didn't even know where he was.
Yeah, but then he left, and then we were like, oh, where did he go? And then his friends were like getting texts from him that he got kicked out of the stadium and like he shit his pants, and it was a thing. So whatever. And we've been there, right? So, but my thing is, I've explained this to Kyle before. They are like watching the game with our dads, and when things go wrong, they. Of course, you shouldn't have done that. I told you not to run the ball. I told you not to pass the ball. And when things go great, they said that they should have been doing it. Even if they said something totally different 2 minutes ago, it is the absolute worst. So now at the end of the first half, they're screaming the call timeout as with like 30 seconds left, as the Bills are purposely trying to go as far down as possible to not leave Lamar Jackson any time. And I don't know what it was, but man, a little bit of me snapped. So all I did was I go, dude, you guys are the worst. Just like, do you think that you scream? Do you not think that if they wanted to call timeout right now, they didn't know to call? Like they don't know, these professionals and the coaches and the biggest game. You don't know that they're going to listen to the fucking guy in 307. And he goes, oh, I'm so sorry, I forgot. You know everything. I go, you know what? I don't know everything. I know more than you. And then you want to know why I know more than you? It's because I've been listening to your dumb ass say stupid things for 10 fucking years. And I'm saying with a little bit of a smile on my face, but I'm elevated. And Kyle legit was like, Kyle goes, I gotta go to the bathroom. And Kyle just laughed. Kyle didn't even, my voice rise. And Kyle knows me. I don't think I've raised my voice in months, especially around Kyle. And this is the first time probably in a year Kyle saw me really agitated. And he was like, yeah, I'm going to go get some hot chocolate. he just left me there alone. I had to pee so bad I could taste it. Okay. And I also, in my head, I was like, if us 4 have to fight those 4, I'm gonna pee in my snow pants, and I'm not doing that. And it would have been the worst too, like 4 layers of pee in that cold, and then it would just froze into your leg.
Yeah.
It was. Then the guy came back, and I was an asshole, but I was laughing and trying to be funny. We have 2 really hot girls in front of us. I was just trying to make them laugh, and so I was.
They also didn't even notice. They don't even know his name.
Ryan, they don't know my name for sure, but and they have been coming to games for 10 years also. It's just I'm a secretive man. I don't want to let you know my name,
He did friend request one on Facebook, and she has not accepted those 3 years ago. So
it's been 2 years. It's been 2 years, and maybe she's just taking a break. Maybe she's taking a break from Facebook. You don't know.
How can we get you to confront her about this friend request at a game?
Just give him time.
No, I'm gonna wait until what you say. Just give him some time. I'm gonna wait. I 100% am going to say something appropriate the last day at the stadium when I know that like they're not gonna be sitting right in front of us in the new stadium. I'm not saying inappropriate, but I'm going to, I'm gonna make my joke about that, and then they're gonna make some excuse, and because it's gonna be weird, and then right at the end, I'm gonna be like, "Well, I'll be waiting for your Facebook request." Oh, she gave me guns last week. She gave me guns. That's I forgot. And guns are, I don't know if you guys know this, but guns are the new blowjob. And so so as I was leaving, I go, I'll see you. We know the season's over. I go, see you at the parade. And she goes and did that. And I don't know, but I think things are getting pretty serious. All right, we're going long. I get it. I did want to ask you guys one. We haven't talked about fantasy enough, so just one thing will end. I wanted to ask one of those guys. They left. Looks like Joe Brady staying, right? Like, are you feeling more confident about that now? As you know, I think the Bills' success has helped that, right? I do think other jobs being filled. I think if the Saints strike out on McCarthy, Pete Carroll, or Aaron, Glenn went to the Jets today for sure. Yes. Okay.
Yes.
So if they strike out on McCarthy or Pete Carroll, like a quote unquote bigger experience name, I think Brady would make sense. And that would also make sense time wise because they're probably trying to court those two right now. But if
They
you
just brought back Kellen Moore for a second interview. So your insiders are wrong.
what they brought in Kellen Moore for a second interview, the Saints.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to end up with the Cowboys, though. No, even though
I
Miro
don't
last
know.
week was assured that Dion's there, but no, there still hasn't been an interview.
I don't. I mean, there's only
I'm
been
feeling confident Brady's going to be here.
3 head coaching. There's still like 4 or 5 teams. I mean, the Jaguars just fired their GM.
Yeah, but they hired. They're hiring Cohen today. Or if it's not today, tomorrow.
No, Cohen is re-signing in Tampa, so Cohen's staying.
Wow, you're so wrong on everything, man.
No,
it's
I
crazy.
could swear I saw Cohen was going to the Jets.
Why do you even
today.
have listeners? That's what's crazy about it.
I legit thought I saw that today.
It was a good old Adarn Schefter. He gotcha.
He must have. All right. Well,
That's
that
fired their GM. They lost out on Cohen, and they were like, "Oh, no one's coming here while this guy's fucking here. We got to get rid of him."
That's crazy. So yeah, then that might be a Brady thing. Hey, let's say this: if Brady stays, any major changes with what you would be thinking about for their fantasy outlook next year? Like, I mean, obviously it's Allen, but like, I don't know if you could. If Brady stays, it's great for us as Bills fans. I feel like for figuring out this team, and I also think that next year would be way more Ray Davis influence than he got this year too, because I do think that they're going to either want to do 2 things. One, kind of control the Cook's cost, his long-term costs and value. So maybe Ray Davis gets a little bit more in that. But then 2, see what they have in him, because they're going to have to make a decision on Cook too, if they don't this offseason. So what do you guys expect if he does come back? And do you have any names for guys you might be interested in if he doesn't?
I probably would just buy into the Bills offense starting to have more fantasy producers starting next year. I get that they've turned into this kind of like bully ball, run the ball, more offensive linemen and control the line of scrimmage type team. But I truly don't believe that going forward, they're going to get Amari Cooper. And this is what I was referencing earlier. I think suggests that they know they need another piece or more on the outside, or at least in the receiver room. So I expect there to be a significant signing or draft piece, draft pick this year. That's, a receiver. So as far as the running back value, I think you're almost always going to be in a committee now. There are very few, workhorse running back roles anymore. So yeah, Cook is definitely going to regress to the mean with all those touchdowns that he scored this year. But yeah, I mean, I'm still buying in the Buffalo offense, even if, Josh is the one running, he's getting more rushing touchdowns because he's going to spread the ball around. And I do think there's going to be somebody next year, in addition to Shakir, that kind of breaks out as a receiver.
Yeah, I just don't. With Joe Brady, I just don't see it. Joe Brady and McDermott, I don't see any of the pass catchers having like a league winning, oh shit, I can't believe I got this guy type year. If Joe Brady leaves, I would just hire whoever the Rams offensive coordinator is.
I would say that even if they got a stud, I think if Joe Brady was still here, I would even hold my expectations low in that. Obviously the thing that everyone's talking about the last couple of days is Cooper Kupp, because he said, I'm definitely playing on it. Even if a guy like Cooper Kupp came here, I think he's like the perfect guy for Josh. Don't get me wrong. Like it's Beasley times 20, but I just don't think. I think we're talking 3 years ago, Josh. I don't think that it's the same Josh, and I don't think this is the same offense. I would hold my reservations for anybody that came. What were you gonna say, Ryan? I saw your nodding.
No, I don't know. I think there's still, we don't know what they truly want to be yet. I think on offense, I think they're making do with what they have. They had cap restrictions this year. They had to move on from Diggs, in their opinion, because of the locker room stuff and contract, everything else. They took their medicine, but I don't think they want to go through this and say, oh, we're never going to have a number one receiver again. That's not what Joe Brady has done in his past either. He had 3,000-yard receivers. Has his offense changed so much that just is never going to happen with a better passing quarterback in Josh Allen than Cam Newton? I'm tending to doubt that. So I think next year you're going to see a dedication to finding, a replacement for Cooper that's a more legitimate option. So we'll see.
Yeah, and that's I was going to say with Bean too. Bean knows you need somebody better than what they have. That's why he went out and got Cooper.
Yep.
Yeah. So, maybe it was a swing and a miss with Cooper, or maybe it was a swing and exactly what I wanted, whatever it may be. He knew at the trade deadline, this team needs to get better, and it's at wide receiver. So if Amari Cooper's leaving in free agency, there's no way he's going, all right, well, the same guys I thought weren't good enough are good enough now.
Yep.
Ryan said they weren't sure what they are still in offense. I don't totally disagree, but they are 2 weeks away from the Super Bowl, so I hope they figure it out soon. Yeah. Predictions here this week. Go ahead. I'll start with you, Kyle. You're the guest.
No chance, dude. I think I said last week, and I was close. I said it'd be an odd score game. And I actually said 27-20.
Yeah.
And it turned to 27-25. This one, not going to be an odd score game, but it'll be high. It'll be a higher score. I'm going to go 36-34. Can you get 34?
I think you could get 34 much easier than you could get 36.
Yeah. 4 touchdowns, 2 field goals, 34.
Yeah, 34 is easy. Math isn't 36 would be hard, but the score with the 2-point conversions and all the stuff.
Dude, anything can happen with these teams.
All right, but 36-34 Bills.
I don't know. I just try to get the score right.
I don't know about that. Go ahead, Ryan.
I said before last week's game that the winner of Bills Ravens was going to go to the Super Bowl, and nothing that happened last weekend changes my mind about that. I guess the Chiefs, didn't look rusty. Congratulations, but the Bills are the better team. If they go and take care of business, they should win. I'll say that. I don't know if they are going to win, but I have a lot more confidence in them to do it this year than in years past. Just they're not, mercurial. They're just kind of like steady and constant. And that's what I really like to see. And the one thing I say that does concern me is McDermott in the late game situations. If he's going to, turn into a pumpkin again and kind of revert to his old, self and his decision-making. But other than that, if they take care of, what they should in the offensive line, the Bills, I think, are winning. I'm going to put it by a score of 31-24.
Okay. Just look this up because I really haven't looked, but have you seen the over-under went from it started at 49.5, which seems low for this game, and then it's gone down to 47.5. So that's insane to me. I think it makes Ryan Talbot's point of I think they really are going to, and what I said, I think that they really are going to still stick with the running game. I think that's where they are this year. I think Allen can make the plays when he needs to, but I think they're limiting what he needs to do, and I think that offensive line is going to crush. I want it to fall under, so 46. We'll call it 47 exactly, but I think the Bills win handedly. So let's do 37-10 Bills. I think this is going to be the party. This is going to be the Chiefs are done for now. Next year we'll have the same conversations, I'm sure. But the Chiefs are done. Allen's the king of the mountain. This just feels different this year. They feel the Bills feel different. I've said this all year, and I've prefaced it each time with how embarrassing it sounds. I just don't think the Chiefs are this good, even though they've only lost one game, but it was to us. I think Bills handle business and win, and I think the Super Bowl. We'll have a couple weeks to talk about that, but I think the Super Bowl is coming here. I think we're gonna experience that. I think we're 3 weeks away from a lot of fun.
Well, and if that happens, if on Sunday night, I'll be going to meet you guys out somewhere for some drinks, probably on Hurdle or Elmwood. Is that
this Sunday?
Sunday night? Oh yeah. After the game.
This Sunday, I don't know. I legit, Kyle might invite me to his. We've talked about maybe doing something together. And I'm like, and of course, I'll probably end up there. But we've all had these conversations with our friends and close. And Kyle and I have been fucking planning this night probably for 15 years of friendship. I'm not sure how many people I want to be around.
After the game. I mean,
No, totally. I'm just saying, like totally after the game.
Well, that's why the invite to my party. No offense, Ryan, went to tailgate crew only. The guys we know.
Yeah.
No
really
randos. And I made that rule for Lou because Lou always brings around randoms.
Oh, I knew it 100%.
And so
you could have. He put in a post of one. We're a small group, so like
exactly.
It's not. But we're a small group, and he puts in the small group. Hey, only us, no randos. But it's like, well, he's not talking to the other two people because they don't even have other friends. He's directly talking to me, and he could have just said, "Hey, Lou, don't bring any randos." And he didn't. He Morse coded it.
You wanted to save that to tell you that on the podcast.
It was a nice way, right? I put it out to the group. I said, and you never know. We got some other people in the group are like, it wouldn't surprise me if our other friend was like, hey, you mind if this guy comes? He's visiting. I'm like, yeah, I do mind. No, your friend, you can go hang out with your friend.
Can we talk about that? I'm sorry. I know you're all tired. Let me just real quick. Did I tell you this, Ryan, last week? Because if I didn't, then
this isn't going to be real quick. Can we do this next episode when I'm not here?
30 seconds. We had a friend. If I said it on last week's podcast, just tell me now and then we can go. But he missed the game, last week's game, season ticket holder for years with us, because he had a friend of his. Every word I say in the sentence is going to get crazier. One of his friends, family members, who we think has to be like a mom or an aunt because she's 70.
No, it's the mom.
Okay, his friend.
You want me to say this?
Go ahead, you do it.
Because there's no way you're going to say this right. It's his friend's 70-year-old mother who lives in Virginia. He went to her third wedding. And he missed the game for that.
Wow.
Like there's my own family members I wouldn't have missed that game for their wedding. And this dude,
I said the most egregious thing is someone's out there still having a third wedding. You don't have that. You don't have that. That's not right.
I can't even make that point because we all know I'm going to be on my third real soon. So I can't. Like,
you should be ashamed of yourself if you're married a third time. Love isn't for you. No one loves you if you're on your third wedding.
I will say this. I might get to my third. I will not expect anyone to even go to the second. Like everybody showed up to the first one. I might invite the whole B group. Like everybody that didn't get the invite the first time. I might invite them for the second one, but third one, like, no, it's me.
Yeah.
Kyle said it the other day. Me on Woodlawn Beach in Hamburg in sandals like Pete Davidson doesn't want me to be in, with marrying some girl named Rain.
Louis' invite for his third wedding is going to be the text that just says no random. Just like
no randos.
All right, on that we can end it. Thank you all for joining us. Go Bills. We'll see you next week with what we hope to be some celebratory Bills talk, but we'll probably get back to some fantasy talk next week too. Go Bills, and see you next week.